You know, everybody tries to get you to believe that poker is so easy these days. Anybody can win, but I gotta tell you that was not my experience when I was first starting out in this game. In fact, I struggled for years before I became a professional poker player. I don't talk about this quite as much, and so I wanted to put together this video for some of you guys who are perhaps struggling to gain your footing at the poker tables and help you improve your game and hopefully start getting some better results. So let's jump into it. Number one, flat call on paired flops. So let's start off by talking about a common situation at the poker tables up against one of these amateur players who raises you on a paired flop. And the biggest lesson here is don't fall for this, guys. Let me give you an example. You raise it up with two red sevens. That's the 7 of hearts and the 7 of diamonds in middle position, and a recreational player, one of our fishy friends, makes the call in the big blind. So this is the kind of player who's playing all sorts of trashy hands. I talk about in these videos all the time that these are the players you want to target, because honestly, guys, this is where your profits are going to come from at the poker table. And we're going to talk about some tougher players coming up in a second, but we'll start off with the fun players first. So the flop comes down with the 8 of clubs, 8 of diamonds, and 3 of hearts. So this is what I mean by a paired flop. An 8-8-3, there's not really anything going on this board, and guys, always remember, hitting 3 of a kind, aka trips in poker, is really hard. It doesn't happen very often. So when you make your standard flop continuation bet here and they raise, basically they are representing almost nothing. What should you do in this spot? You should just make the call. There's no point in raising, because if you raise here, all you're going to do is just fold out all of their mediocre hands, and you're only going to get action in the extremely rare situation where they actually do have something like an 8 or a slow played pocket aces or something. And obviously we don't want to fold our hand either. We have pocket 7s. We still have the best hand here most of the time. Guys, bottom line, do not fall for these little raises on a paired flop like this. They're not representing anything. Just call them down and play some poker. Number two, square peg, round hole. So guys, let me tell you something you already know. You can't bluff a calling station at the poker table, and a calling station is one of our fishy friends again. These are the players who love to call you down with anything. They chase any draw, any bottom pair, anything. And again, we will talk about some tougher players in a sec, but let's keep it on the recreational players here. You raise it up with the king of hearts and the jack of spades, and one of our fishy friends calls. Flop comes down with the 7 of diamonds, 6 of spades, and 5 of diamonds. So guys, I'm not going to cut any corners here. This flop is an unmitigated disaster for our hand. We have no pair, no draw, and crucially, this is the kind of flop that absolutely smacks the heck out of this player's range. They are not going to be folding anything on this board. They can have a flush draw if they've got any 2 diamonds in their hand. If they have an 8 in their hand, they have an open-ended straight draw. If they have a 4 in their hand, they have an open-ended straight draw. If they have a hand like 8-7, they've got top pair plus a straight draw. Guys, I could go on and on. 7-6 has 2 pair, 6-5 has 2 pair, pocket 6s has a set. I hope you get the idea. This player is never folding anything on this board, and we are behind a significant portion of their range. Bottom line, guys, do not try to shove the square peg through the round hole. This player is not folding. The best thing you can possibly do here is simply check and give up. Number 3, pot control top pair. So let's talk about some good players now, as I promised. So you want to get 2 streets of value versus good players. Let me quickly just explain what a street is in poker. This is a slang term that we use for the flop, turn, and river. So when I say 2 streets of value, what I mean by that is we're going to try to get a bet out of them on 2 of the 3 streets, and in particular the flop and the river, and I'm going to explain the reasoning behind that in just a moment. All right, so we're sticking with king jack here once again. You raise it up with the king of diamonds and the jack of spades, and this time we nail the flop with top pair. Flop comes down with the jack of hearts, 9 of spades, and 5 of diamonds. So in a situation like this is a pretty typical spot to make our standard flop continuation bets. We're up against a good player. There are a lot of draws on this board. There are no flush draws on this board, but there's several straight draws. For example, a hand like queen 10 has an open-ended straight draw, 8-10 has an open-ended straight draw, and there's a couple other hands that that have gut shot straight draws. This player could definitely have a worse pair as well with a hand like queen jack or ace nine. So this is just a very typical spot for me to make a flop continuation bet to continue the aggression. And we're betting for value in this situation. And I should have explained that as well. When you're betting for value in poker, it just means we have a strong belief that we have the best hand. So the turn comes down with the 7 of hearts. Not the best card in the world. Remember that we talked about the 8-10 that they could have? Well, the 7 just completes that straight. So you check here and they check behind. River comes down with the total brick, the 3 of spades. What should you do? Well, guys, I'm a big fan of making a big bet here. I would recommend betting around 80% of the pot. So there's $100 in the pot, you bet $80. Now, why? The reason why is because when the turn goes check, check, this player is going to put you on nothing, basically. They're going to assume that you have given up on the hand and you're just making a bluff on the river here. And that's why I really like going for a big bet, because a lot of people have the idea in their head that big bet equals bluff. I like to do the exact opposite of what people think at the poker table. So I make big bets for value and I make smaller bets often with a bluff. But guys, try out this strategy for yourself. This is one of the best ways to get maximum value versus the better players at the poker table. You want to take a hand like top pair, bet the flop, slow down on the turn, and then get big value on the river. Number 4, take out the trash. So guys, do not play crappy hands at the poker table and ditch your favorite hand too, by the way. Let me give you an example. All of these hands below are pure junk. Jack 7 of hearts, 9 6 of clubs, 4 3 of diamonds, ace 6 offsuit, king 10 offsuit. Guys, these hands are pure and utter garbage. They should be thrown in the dumpster. Do not play these hands. These hands will not be long-term winners for you at the poker tables, and you are only costing yourself money by playing junky hands like this. By the way, if you just want some simple charts to study and memorize for yourself, I have the full charts of exactly what hands to play in my free poker cheat sheet. I will leave a link to that in the description below. Number 5, the most misplayed hand of them all. That's pocket jacks, which is the 4th best hand in the game, and this is the hand that everybody struggles with. But if you understand how to read the situation correctly and understand where you're at, this is actually not a bad hand, and it actually will be one of your biggest winners in the long run. So let's jump into the example. You've got 2 red jacks, jack of hearts and the jack of diamonds in a $1, $2 cash game. So a tight player has raised, and that is critical to this hand, and then another tight player has re-raised. So guys, the alarm bells need to be going off in your mind here. What are 2 of the tightest players at the table possibly raising and re-raising you with that you are somehow still way ahead of with pocket jacks here? So the biggest mistake that a lot of people make here is re-raising. I hope you can understand why that would be a total disaster at this point, because if you put in the 4-bet here, the re-raise, you are literally only going to get action from pocket aces, pocket kings, pocket queens, and possibly ace king. 3 of those hands that I just listed have you totally crushed, 80% or more to win, and versus ace king, you are around a coin flip. This is not really a good situation for us. So what should you do in this spot? Just calling is your best option. And honestly, if I'm up against 2 incredibly tight players, sometimes I will even fold before the flop. But guys, the biggest takeaway here is do not re-raise again here with pocket jacks. You are only digging your own grave by doing that. Just call in this situation, understand how to read the player types you're up against, and you're going to have a lot more success. By the way, this is something that I talk about in extensive detail in my brand new Play Fearless Poker training program. There are over 100 advanced bluffing examples. I show you how to take hands much worse than pocket jacks and bluff out good poker players, especially on the turn and river. This is the most advanced poker training program I've ever put together. This is for very serious poker players only. I have just opened up enrollment. I will leave a link in the description below if you want to get in now. Let's move on to number 6 now. Don't call 3-bets out of position. So guys, this is one of my pet peeves at the poker tables. This is the one that I harp on with my students in particular all the time, is to always understand your position at the poker table. And I know we talked about king jack a lot in this video, but we got to talk about this hand again. You do not want to be calling out of position with hands like king jack, and you can add queen jack to that list, ace 10. I would put ace jack in there as well, and we're going to find out why that's so problematic right now. So you raise it up with the king of hearts, jack of diamonds this time, mix up the suits a little bit just to keep it interesting here, and a good player re-raise re-raises you. So what is going on here? Well, guys, you need to understand that when a solid player, a good player in today's games re-raises you before the flop, they are never doing this with a worse king. They're not doing this with king 10, king 9, or king 8. Good players don't even play those hands. No, what are they doing this with? They're doing this with ace king or king queen, two hands that have you absolutely crushed, or they're doing it with pocket aces, pocket kings, pocket queens. All those hands have you crushed, or some sort of hand that you're flipping against. And when I say flipping, it just means you're a coin flip basically against them. For example, pocket 10s, pocket 9s. So we don't need to be a math genius to understand that we're not in very good shape versus this range of hands, but you decide to call out of position anyways. And I should have explained out of position, by the way. That means we're going to be acting first on the flop, turn, and river. That is a huge disadvantage in poker, a game of incomplete information, because you have to play the guessing game constantly. So let's just skip ahead all the way to the river here. The board reads the king of clubs, 7 of hearts, 5 of diamonds, deuce of spades, and 3 of clubs. So we did hit top pair on the flop, and since you're playing out of position, you had to play the guessing game the entire way. You check, they bet, you call, rinse, repeat on the flop, turn, and river. They flip over the ace king and you lose a big pot. Guys, let me tell you, this is not a bad beat. A lot of people get this twisted. This is 100% preventable. And how do you prevent it? You fold your hand before the flop. Guys, do not call 3 bets out of position with hands like king jack, queen jack, ace 10. You are simply digging your own grave, especially against a good player who is only going to be re-raising you with hands like ace king. And number 7, accept losing days. So guys, let me tell you, as a 10+ year professional poker player, over 20 years in this game, losing days are absolutely inevitable at the poker tables. And I've had losing weeks and even months, by the way, multiple stretches of those throughout my entire career. I talked about that in other videos, but let's just talk about single days because that's a little bit easier to chew on. So we've all been there. Your pocket aces lose every single time they hit a flush. They hit a lucky 3 of a kind or a 2 pair on the river. Your ace king of spades, you 3-bet before the flop, and the flop comes down with the 4, 5, 6 of diamonds, a total disaster. What do you do? Guys, these are the days where there is absolutely nothing on earth you can do to win. And let me tell you something you probably already know, Captain Comeback never works out very well on these days. And there's several reasons why. Number 1, you're playing in your worst mental state. You're frustrated, you're angry, you're upset because your pocket aces and your ace king keep losing every single time. And what this is going to do is it's going to bring your decision making down. You're not going to be making good decisions at the poker table. You're going to start playing more hands. You're going to start making bluffs that don't make any sense at all. And even worse, some people will jump up to higher stakes, which is the absolute disaster scenario where you play against a superior opponent, an opponent who is also cool, calm, and collected, who has just been waiting for you to show up and donate all your money to them. Guys, one of the biggest lessons I learned early on in my professional poker career is to simply quit early on these days. If you have a -3 buy-in day, for example, at the cash game tables, it's okay to take that loss. What you don't want to do is turn that into a -10 buy-in day by playing when you're at your worst, making terrible decisions, or even worse, jumping up to higher stakes and throwing away even more money to a superior opponent. The bottom line, guys, is that you're going to have rough days at the poker table. The best thing you can do is simply learn to quit on those days. You're better than that. You've put in so much time and effort into this game. Do not throw away all of your winnings just because you had a rough day. All right, guys, like and subscribe if you found this video helpful. And if you want to know my entire strategy, including exactly what hands to play, make sure you grab a copy of my free poker cheat sheet. That'll be the top link in the description below. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. All the best at the poker tables, unless you're on mine.